Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cedarville Stories Podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein, and today on the program, I'm talking with two soon-to-be college graduates, and Emily Wollschlager and David Reid. That's right, commencement is just around the corner, and soon Emily and David will be leaving campus to begin their careers. Emily, who is from Fredericksburg, Maryland, studied computer science, and David Reid from Columbus, Ohio, studied cyber operations. Both will leave Cedarville with positions at prestigious organizations, and I'll explain more today on the podcast. But for now, let's go to my conversation with Emily and David on this commencement version of the Cedarville Stories Podcast. Guys, we are just a few days from graduation. You're going to walk across that stage at Doden Fieldhouse on this Saturday. And for both of you, I don't know, I'm curious. Some graduates, it's the most exciting day in their life. Other graduates, not so much because they don't know what's next. Where do you fall in that spectrum? Or is it both? Are you guys anxious, nervous? Where do you fall?
I mean, I'm mostly excited, but I will say, sometimes in engineering, there's sort of some trauma, and so you're like, wow, it's about to be over.
Yeah.
So you have a feeling of relief, but what is true is whenever you leave an institution, you always miss the people.
Yeah.
So you don't maybe miss the late nights and I had that, had to do that, but you do miss the people. So I'm sad about that, but otherwise, it is pretty exciting to see 4 years of hard work come to an end.
Yeah, you've done well. How about you, Emily?
Yeah, same for me. I think it's something that we've been working towards for so long. I really just can't even believe that the 4 years is over. It doesn't feel like that long ago that we were walking in and, didn't know anyone,
right.
And, just all of the new things of college and not even, your hard classes and your hard major and stuff. And so I think it's definitely the result of so much work that you're just so excited for it to be over, but also just to see your hard work pay off is something that I'm really just looking forward to. But like David said, really, it's all of the relationships that have been built. It's really crazy to think that 4 years ago, I didn't know any of these people. And now how close we are, it's definitely going to be different going from seeing them every day to seeing them a lot less often. So I'm definitely excited for the next phase, but also it's sad to leave some things behind.
Sure. So next question, I want to talk also more about Cedarville, and you kind of alluded to some of what I want to go toward, and that is, 4 years of education, kind of be a little reflective. What comes to mind to you, Emily, that really is most meaningful from your 4 years at Cedarville?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that personally I've grown a lot during my time here. I honestly feel like the Lord has really stretched me and grown me in ways that I feel like maybe I'm not even the same person I was 4 years ago. And so I definitely, when I think about kind of where God's brought me this during my time at Cedarville, during my 1,000 days, it's really been, going from someone who had done school and, had maybe had a little bit of experience with, some hard classes, but then getting here and really jumping in and being stretched academically, but also being stretched in my relationships and interpersonally, and being stretched in extracurricular areas and building those relationships. I think you encounter a lot of different things in college that really grow you in different ways. And I think that definitely the academics, but also just those personal, that personal growth too.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, actually, I think that I don't know, you kind of don't really realize where you are until you're faced with those sorts of like circumstances and experiences. And then you're like, oh, here's an opportunity for growth. And it's been so great. I just have loved my time here and have loved seeing how the Lord has grown and stretched me.
What about you, David?
I think this number is right, but I remember when I came in as a freshman, you have to do DLD. And basically, I think it's about a third of students stick with the major they chose.
Really?
And then 2/3 change. I could be wrong. Maybe that number has changed since then.
I trust you.
But yeah, we're going to go with that, okay? And I remember thinking to myself, being in DLD, digital logic design, man, am I going to stay on this, computer science and cyber operations, or, am I going to end up someplace different? And so there's always sort of that uncertainty of, am I going to be able to stick it out? What is this going to look like? Well, now 4 years later, it's like, yeah, I did stick it out, and we're coming to the end of that.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely, it's really surreal more than anything, but it's time well spent. And in terms of thinking from 1,000 days, it was a very fast 1,000 days. But a lot's been done. And I think in our case, we're in technical majors. So you come in with some foreknowledge of what your field is a little bit.
Yeah.
But now we have a much better understanding of what we're doing. And with something so technical, we're by no means experts, but you have a sense of sort of self-assurance of, I know how to navigate this field. I'm familiar with the subjects. I'm set up for success.
Yeah. So why did you stick with cyber ops?
That's a great question. Well, in high school, I had some exposure to cybersecurity and enjoyed it. And so, especially looking at the news and a lot of sort of current events, it was amazing to me that our technology, especially in the West here in the United States, where we're so, technologically based compared to other countries, it was just being used against us. And so machines are technical, they can be frustrating and sometimes boring, but cybersecurity adds in that human component. And all of a sudden it's like, well, my printer's not printing the document I told it to print, but maybe there's a reason for that. And obviously, like, printers are just defective. It's not like someone's messing with you. But
right.
My point is there's a human element. And that really spoke to me. And I think in our world, as Christians, there's always this battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
You see that in the movies. You see that everywhere in society. And a big part of that plays out in modern society through cybersecurity.
Sure.
People want to steal your money, your intellectual property, whatever, your reputation, whatever it is.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into that as we get on the podcast. But one final question in this regard, real quick. So you loved your 1,000 days, it sounds like, at Cedarville. What is one thing, and I'll go to Emily, what is one thing that you never want Cedarville to change?
Wow. I just love Cedarville, and I love being able to, call myself an alumni now in just a couple days, and I'm really excited for that. One thing I think that I would really tell Cedarville not to change is the small class sizes that we have, because it really gives you the opportunity to get to know your professors. And that's something that makes Cedarville really unique. Something I always tell freshmen if they're asking me, like, tips for success, I always tell them to get to know your professors. Go to office hours, take the time, talk to them after class, send them an email, because they care about us not only from an academic perspective, but also really from a personal growth perspective. They want to help us grow in godliness. They want to help us navigate, internships and jobs and all of those things, and also help you succeed academically. So I would definitely say small class sizes are just huge for that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my thing.
How about you, David?
I would say a lot of my contributions here at Cedarville have revolved around the cyber program, to be blunt.
Right.
I think the cyber program, and I'm biased, so this is totally biased, so forgive me. But I think the cyber program has a lot to offer the university. And I really hope that Cedarville continues to invest in its faculty and the infrastructure that it uses to equip students, specifically in the cyber field, because I really see that becoming more and more critical. I think of, they put us in the Schaumburg Business Center, recently. And that was, first off, we're really appreciative of that, but it really underscores to me how modern business, take nursing, which is the largest major here. Nurses, there's lots of privacy laws pertaining to patient health data. And so I think that it's really wise and sound that the university continues to invest in the cyber program and really make that something special.
Yeah. So David, as I was researching for today's program, I discovered and learned that you come from a very, I'll say, influential family. I'll say this specifically, your grandparents. Your grandfather's a judge. Your grandmother was a state legislator. How did they inspire you to pursue what you pursued?
Well, I appreciate that question. I look up to them. I love them very much. They're probably going to be listening to this on their very short drive in. But their leadership, I think it goes back to leadership and the role model you set. The best leaders lead by example. And when you see someone, in my case, your family members set a good example, that reflects very well to, their children and their grandchildren and really any offspring that, they're responsible for. So seeing them, my grandpa was in the Air Force, and so I have a great love for aviation and the Air Force, and that basically comes from him. And so basically really just talking with them. I think the thing that's underappreciated in our society today is the time you spend with your grandparents and really just older people. A lot of folks miss out on the wisdom and the life experience they have to share. And so the time I've spent with them, I've never regretted. And it's really been just influential in some of the big life decisions you make, but also just really some of the small, more mundane ones you don't really think a lot about. But in hindsight, you're like, actually, that was a pretty big decision to make.
Yeah. And you have a real blessing coming to Cedarville. You're from Columbus.
Correct.
They're from Greene County here where we're located. Yep. So what a great opportunity to really spend more time with them. Did that allow you to have more time with them?
Oh, absolutely. They're, so for people here at Cedarville, Dayton is home to Marion's Pizza. And so, they're not sponsoring this, but they should reach out to me. I love to, do a deal with you.
It's good. It's good.
You've been there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it.
Wow. I'm surprised. Not a lot of my roommates and, they hate it. They don't think it's, maybe that's too strong a word, but they don't think it's that good. But I love Marion's. And so I kind of grew up on that. And they love it too. So I've spent a lot of time with them over at Marion's. And being in close proximity allows you to sort of grow those relationships much easier. And so I've really... Truly, my college experience would have been a lot different without them. So, most people, when they go to school, they leave home and they sort of leave their family behind. I'm from Columbus, so they're an hour away, and my grandparents live locally. So I was actually sort of able to continue that and grow closer to them. And that is, for me personally, that's really been a highlight of my college career.
Absolutely. As I mentioned in the introduction, once you graduate, both of you are going into really prestigious positions and organizations. David with the Department of Defense and Emily with Microsoft. Can you explain what you know that what you're going to be doing when you reach your office, reach your organization in that first week, first month, first year? Any idea what's your role, Emily?
Yeah, so I am going to be working as a technology consultant, which I'm really excited for. One of the things I kind of developed a passion for this summer and this school year through my senior design project was consulting work. I love being able to work with clients and help meet their business needs through technology. That's something that has really become a passion of mine. So when I ended up with the opportunity to do that for Microsoft, I was just so thrilled. So that's kind of going to be what I'm going to be doing. Microsoft touches a lot of different areas. And so I'm excited to get to be a part of that and helping meet the needs of their clients.
And where will you be working? What city? What part?
Yeah, I'll be near DC.
Okay, so near home.
Yeah, not too far.
Not too far. David?
I'll be nearby, and I think like a lot of corporate America, there's a lot of trainings you have to sit through in the beginning. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be, whatever it is. But I think what's really unique about working for the Department of Defense is you get to protect the homeland. I think that's a really cool mission. And so as I look forward to that, I think Cedarville has equipped me to be very well prepared to do that. Cybersecurity is a really technical field. And so as I start out and have to, essentially, in some ways, I go back to school to get more training for what they want me to do because of just how, sophisticated things are. But as I do that, it's really good to have the solid foundation that I have here at Cedarville to use that as I learn new things and sort of further refine my craft. Mm-hmm.
So you said initially that you're going to be nearby.
Yeah.
Where will you be working out of?
So I will be working out of the DC area. So there's.
So when you said nearby, you'd be nearby Emily.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot of. It's crazy. The DC Beltway, or call it what you will. It's one of those places where, you go there, the traffic's crazy because, every square mile is filled with office, parks, buildings, and whatnot. So I don't know where specifically, but there's lots of different installations there, museums as well, which I will be visiting, and lots of things to, crammed into a very small area as the U.S. has grown. Okay.
So at Cedarville, it's not uncommon for our graduates to get jobs after graduation. 98% of our graduates, recent graduates, are either employed or going to grad school. So that's common. We'll put that off the table. But what is unique is with you guys have been working on this, cultivating these career opportunities for a while. how did you go about finding these jobs, and what was the process like, even while you were a college student, to secure such impressive positions?
Yeah, one of the things that I was focused on kind of early in my college days was definitely trying to be a well-rounded student. We get a lot of amazing training through our coursework, but there's also really great opportunities outside. So being involved in different cyber competitions, I did that sophomore year to learn some different technical skills that maybe I hadn't seen applied in the classroom yet. But then switching into junior year, I became part of an organization where we work with the alumni of Cedarville. And so being able to just grow interpersonally and growing just in different areas, more in the soft skills side of things. I continue with that this year. And then I had a part of the Women in Cybersecurity organization here on campus as the vice president there for a little bit, and just being able to pour into the freshman and sophomore girls. So really trying to grow in a lot of different areas during my time here. And then internships became a big thing after sophomore year, working through that. But then also just meeting people. A lot of opportunities pop up when you know people. And so taking the time to really get to know people, using your network and building your network, but really not looking at it as just people, but as relationships that you can, you never know what opportunities will, show up.
Let me drill down a little bit. So how did Microsoft find you?
So I've actually, I think it was back in December. I'd been applying for a lot of jobs. I'd been applying for jobs since July of last summer. I'd had some interviews, but hadn't really had anything really take off. But then Microsoft, this technology consulting role opened up, and I saw it and I was like, oh, that looks really interesting, because I am interested in working with clients. I'm interested in kind of the place where like business and technology meet, which is really kind of consulting. And so I saw it and I was like, this is great. And I was so excited when I got that first interview. I was like, there's no way, this is awesome. And then really just seeing how even just the things I didn't realize were really helping prepare me for the role. And then through the interview process and getting to kind of share a little bit of my story and realizing that the Lord has been preparing me for a role like this for longer than I realized. Okay,
and we'll continue with your story in a minute. But David, how did the DoD get attracted to you, and what was this process like?
Sure. Well, Cedarville has a lot of amazing connections. It's a small school, in the cornfields of Ohio, but the faculty here have really done a great job of establishing connections within each department with a lot of the major brands, or whatever you call them. So Cedarville sends a lot of folks into Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is here locally, but then also into the defense world, the intelligence world, defense contracting, that entire, apparatus of national security there. And so around my, I guess it was junior or sophomore year, I started looking around, and I've had some interest in doing national security type stuff. And so talking with different faculty members and whatnot, I applied to various internship programs, and, you apply kind of, in a broad sense, and then you just see what hits you get back. And so one after another, some folks reached out, and then one thing led to the next. And then I had an internship there, and that was my summer of my junior year. And then the following summer I went back, and then now I'm going to be able to work for them. So it's a slow process, and in employment things can change rapidly. That's just the way business is. But Cedarville has a reputation for being high quality, and especially when you're able to do the internships, the employer gets to know you a bit better. And so they're like, well, we kind of like this guy. Or at least that must be what they're thinking. I hope.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks that, but I guess they were like, I had a good day with it.
I think you're okay. I mean, I've enjoyed working with you.
Yeah.
So, so I assume, is it a fair statement that Cedarville's proximity to Wright-Pat really was a key element to leading you where you are?
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, and I think of our faculty members, some of them are retired Air Force. Some of them went to the Air Force Institute of Technology. So they have an understanding of the military culture. Whatever you're trying to get into, it has its own technical jargon and just the parlance for that. And so they understood that and they had those connections. And some of them had worked in the Pentagon previously. And so they just understand that world. And so you can ask them questions. They're like, well, let's try this. When they go to write your letters of recommendation, they just have an intuitive feel for how things should be. So having that wisdom and just previous experience to go off of on top of the connections,
right,
it makes you much more competitive. Furthermore, Cedarville holds a lot of accreditations that really set it apart from an institutional perspective. And so that also further, makes our graduates and my peers a lot more able to compete.
So working for the DOD, I assume you'll get some level of security clearances. Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, that is a part of it. There's a lot of, the security world is very big on trust. And so there's very stringent requirements and background checks. And so that is, those kinds of things are definitely a part of it. And they can be lengthy.
Has that happened yet? Has that process started yet?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff has for me and a lot of my peers. And so it depends on what you're doing specifically. And so different things will require different levels. Some things they don't require anything. And it depends on the office you're in. So for me, I'm uncertain what that looks like. But some of that does kick off in addition to the normal employment stuff. So it is it's a different world. It really is a different world than, just, working at some,
organization
sector.
Any organization.
Completely.
So what Emily didn't share on this podcast earlier was that when she was thinking about Microsoft, she also had a very nice offer from IBM. So she had a dilemma, and how does she decide which one to take or not take either one and go someplace else? So Emily, talk about that process that you walked through, I believe with Career Services, to really work through it that ultimately led you to Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was definitely a thrill to be faced with. You call it a dilemma. Really, it's a great dilemma to be faced with.
It is.
Something I'm really thankful for sure. I was just so blown away when my offer from Microsoft came in, then my offer from IBM came in, and I was like, wow, this is a decision I didn't foresee. But yeah, just definitely I went and talked to one of my faculty members and took my offer letters to him and kind of talked through the different options, definitely talked with my parents a lot.
Yeah.
I went to Career Services and talked to Mr. Reid, and he was really helpful. He pulled out a pad of paper and was like, all right, so we've got this, we've got this, we've got this. This is what we're weighing here. We want some more information about this. And so so helpful. Gave me a lot of confidence to be able to go back to these companies and try to, figure out some more information and to just kind of set myself up for the best decision. And it was such a hard decision. I was so excited about both of offers and, definitely wasn't expecting to have to make a decision between such, great companies. But Microsoft ended up being, a little bit, just a couple things just lined up kind of differently, ended up being a better fit for right now for me. But yeah, definitely a really exciting decision.
So what made Microsoft the perfect fit right now for Emily?
That's a good question. I think that I was definitely really excited about the idea of working for Microsoft. It was something I hadn't really thought was going to come up like right away after college. And so I definitely was trying to weigh a lot of different things, which is why it was really helpful for me to get a lot of advice about it, because it definitely was not an easy decision. And I definitely, as I said, I loved the idea of working for IBM. And so then when Microsoft came, I was like, okay, so, which way do I go here? And so definitely, a lot of trying to get wisdom from people who've been in similar positions before, trying to make that decision.
Yeah. So any given year, there are thousands upon thousands of college graduates across the country, from Christian universities like Cedarville to secular institutions like Harvard, Yale, Michigan, prestigious organizations or institutions. How were you both able to stand out from that competition? Because I have to believe there were multiple people going for your job and your job. David?
It's a great observation. And I think what it really boils down to is the fact that, you need to be technically skilled. You need to have a lot of prerequisite stuff. But really the core today is, can we trust you? Are you going to be punctual? really, can we trust you to be an ambassador of our organization? Because, maybe you just hold an office job and so you're not really publicly facing a lot. But nowadays, things move so quickly. We need to be able to trust you that you're going to show up on time, you're going to do your job, steward our resources the right way, use your time productively, and just help us further the mission of whatever that organization is trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, folks are realizing we really need people that they have a conviction in their lives about what they're here to do. And more, especially when you think of public service and things of that nature, your private life bleeds into your public life or what you do at work. And it's, you can compartmentalize them in some ways, but in other ways you can't. And so more and more, I think organizations and enterprises are realizing we really need to find candidates that, maybe they're not initially the most well-skilled, which is not the case here at Cedarville. But what really matters, though, and what we really need to look for is, are they the right fit? So, some organizations talk about like a holistic analysis. I think I don't know if they would admit this, but I think what they're really saying is, can we trust you? Do you have integrity? Yeah. Are you actually someone that we can, I can leave you, you can stay, late hours and I can trust you to just, keep working. And, I'm not concerned about leaving the door unlocked with you in it. So I think that is really what it boils down to. And here at Cedarville, we're by no means perfect, but we have a reputation for quality and doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah. And that triggers this thought. So a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Jeff Reip and I went to a TV station and we met with the vice president general manager about internships and about different things. And this VP said what she's interested in Cedarville students is that they will come with a biblical worldview, which means they can be trustworthy, right?
Correct.
Speak to the biblical worldview that is on display here at Cedarville and how that played a role in your getting this position.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that's fascinating is, for example, a lot of certain government agencies, it's historically known, they were recruited from, for example, Brigham Young University. Okay. Well, why is that? Why would the FBI and some of those places be interested in recruiting from BYU? Well, their students have, we differ ideologically with them in different ways, but it's because they have a foundation that they view the world from. Right. And I think a lot of folks here at Cedarville, because our decision-making is based in the Bible and our Christian worldview helps us, it helps us live out what we do every day, that provides us, it puts us in a really unique spot compared to other people because now, it's not about me. It's about how can I serve others because I'm not that special. I mean, I can't do anything on my own. And so that sort of mindset, which comes from the Bible, understanding that, we rely on someone else to get by day to day. I think that's really powerful. And so the Bible minor here at Cedarville, that the entire student life is based around that. And so employers look at that, and I think even if they're not a Christian, they look at that and they respect that. And they're like, well, that is something that, I think that might work for us. Yeah. And so we're going to take a chance on hiring some of you. And that really sets us apart as individually, but as an institution.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's take that further. And so now and I don't know exactly when you're starting with Microsoft, in a few days, a week, a month, I don't know for sure. But when you start that job, how do you hope to bring your faith with you so it's central to who you are and it guides how you work and how you treat others?
Yeah, I think a lot of that really does tie into the stuff that David was talking about, right. With just being a trustworthy employee. You say you're going to be somewhere, be there. You say you're going to be there at a certain time, don't be late. And so I definitely just, and then working with integrity when I'm, working with other people's content or code, if I'm doing any sort of development and making sure I'm giving credit where credit is due and making sure I'm being honest with my time. If I said that I was working, make sure I was actually working. I think it's a lot of those, it doesn't have to be big and showy. I think it's a lot of just doing daily tasks with honesty and integrity. that really is living out the Christian life in the workplace.
Is that how you'll be able to do it at the DOD? Because that's a federal entity.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, I'm glad you touched on this. I think the best way to really witness to others in really any setting is simply the way you live your life. You know, there's a saying, before you criticize the world, make sure your house is in order. I think a lot of folks today, and even in current events right now, you know, people will, preach something, but then realistically, they actually don't walk what they're saying. And there's just incoherence there. And for humans, we look at that and we're like, well, that doesn't make much sense. You know, you're saying this, but you're not doing it. And so the best way, and what I'm going to do, and what I try to do is what I should say, because I'm not perfect, but the way you live your life, you know, if you're a servant leader, that really says a lot. And so, here at Cedarville, some of the speakers we bring in, some of them were military officers. And one of the best examples they gave us was, some of them, they didn't cuss at all, but a lot of their service members did. And that simple difference spoke volumes to their fellow service members, because it was subtle. They weren't judging anybody, but just by the way they spoke, you could tell it was different. And people, they wonder, why is that? What makes you tick? Why are you so different when everybody else is doing this? And it's not a superiority, mindset. It's just something's different about you, and it makes people curious.
It gives you an open door.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah. So we are rapidly running out of time. I know it went really quickly, but I want to ask two final questions, and you both can answer it. So as you prepare for your work at Microsoft in the Department of Defense, what challenge or challenges do you anticipate being maybe your biggest hurdles as you really start your professional career?
It's a great question. I think for me, especially going into the Department of Defense, which is specifically the government, there is, government service has a lot of interesting oddities to it that you don't, in some ways you find it in corporate America, but in other ways you don't. So I think really navigating that and doing so in a thoughtful, caring way, that will take some new creativity to approach being in school. It's a different mindset. It's a paradigm shift. But I'm looking forward to that. And so I think that will be probably the biggest thing, is adjusting to that sort of work-life balance, and how can I contribute, but also not cause too many problems, so to speak.
What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of definitely learning new things. I'm excited for training and getting in there and really becoming a lot more familiar with different Microsoft products, since I'm going to be kind of taking that to different customers. Being able to, know those products really well is going to be important. And so I'm excited for that training and figuring out kind of how to best represent Microsoft to these companies. But I think that's also kind of the biggest challenge, is making sure that I am representing Microsoft well in all those different areas.
And while you do all that, and I know you're going to do it well, just knowing you as much as I do know, but I also encourage you, another challenge is quickly find a local church that you can plug into. You're going to need that. You're going to want that.
Yeah.
Completely. No, moving out there will be good, but it is, there's a lot of things to consider when you sort of uproot yourself and, move a couple hundred miles to a different place.
Right.
There's a lot of things that come with it.
So final question. This is directed for those who are watching and listening. Maybe it's for prospective students who are interested in cybersecurity, computer science, engineering, whatever. What advice would you give them as they are now looking to maybe follow in your footsteps? What do they need to know as they move from high school to college?
Well, here's my perspective. I think it's worthwhile getting a technical skill. People are going to argue that or debate that, but I think you need a technical skill. So figure out something that you can see yourself doing. You may not particularly enjoy every moment of it, but you need to find a skill set that the market values. If you don't, it will just be harder for you. You can still succeed, and people do it all the time, but it will be harder to provide for yourself, because that's why you go to school. You're making an investment.
Right.
You need to make an investment that's going to pay off. So find something, whether that's computer science or medicine, whatever the field is, that's technical, and work hard at it, invest in that, and get get good at it.
Okay.
Spend your 4 years here at Cedarville. You only have 1,000 days. Maximize that. And while you're doing that, the Bible talks about remembering thy Creator in the days of thy youth. It's very easy to forget a lot of the big picture things in life, especially when you're young and, everything is sunshine and rainbows, right? And unless you're in the E&S. But, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't do that. Remember why you're here and what you're trying to do. And I think you'll find when you get through your 4 years, you'll be set up for success.
What's your advice, Emily?
Yeah, I definitely am with David. Getting a technical skill is really important. I would say that while you're doing that, definitely don't leave the soft skills behind. A lot of people can be taught technical skills, but some things can't be taught as much, or they're not cultivated. You don't take the time to cultivate them in yourself. So take the time to be a good communicator, take the time to build relationships and learn how to build relationships and have good relationships with people, because you can learn a hard skill really well, but if you don't know how to connect with people and you don't know how to work well with other people, you could be the best programmer in the world, but it's not going to matter. So definitely, don't leave the other side behind.
Well said.
Yeah, and I can resonate with that because I speak often in public relations circles, and my philosophy of PR, public relations, is PR, public relations, equals people and relationships.
Yeah.
And I think there are two things that are going to last forever: the Word of God and people. And so invest there. So let me speak directly to our viewers and listeners. So if you're interested in studying some of these programs that David and Emily have talked about, cyber operations, computer science, engineering, others, healthcare, I really encourage you to visit Cedarville's website, cedarville.edu, and learn more. I think you'll be surprised at what you learn. You'll be pleased with for sure what you learned, and come out and take a visit, and let's see what works for you. So, guys, we're out of time, but I've really enjoyed spending the past 30 plus minutes with you guys. You guys have bright futures. I'm really looking forward to following your career, and come back and visit us, and best wishes as you serve in your respective roles. Thanks for joining me this week on the podcast.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Cedarville Stories Podcast, brought to you by Cedarville University. Be sure to come back next week when we'll share another Cedarville story for God's glory.